Good evening. I call to order this regular meeting of the Scottsdale Unified School District Number 48 Governing Board. Today is Tuesday, September 12th, 2023. The time is 6 p.m. Vice President Werner, can you please lead us in a Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America.
Thank you, and I'll start with a roll call from my far right.
Amy Carney.
Zach Lindsay.
Karen Warner.
I'm Julie Sinowski. Do we have Dr. Hartwells in the crowd?
I am present.
Okay, we have all 5 members present, and we have a quorum. I'd like to make an amendment to our agenda for this evening, and I'm going to ask that we pull consent agenda I. Are there any other?
Not for further consideration. Remove it completely.
Remove it completely. That's correct. Thank you. Any other input or recommendations from board members? Seeing that there are none, I'd like to make a motion to approve the agenda as amended. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Board Member Werner. All in favor, say aye.
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 That motion passes 5-0. All right, we're going to move on to, since we approved our agenda, I'm going to read our statement of decorum first, just as a reminder to all of our participants of our evening meeting. Just like in school, we are expected to also follow some rules here in our meetings. Citizens attending and or participating in the Scottsdale Unified School District meetings, either in person, virtually, or telephonically, are required to observe the same rules of order and decorum applicable to members of the governing board and our school staff. Unauthorized remarks or demonstrations from members of the audience, yells, outbursts, and or disruptions are not permitted. Members of the public are not allowed to approach the dais at any time while the governing board meeting is in session without express permission from the governing board president. All right, and we are going to move on to student and staff recognitions at this time, my favorite part of this meeting. And I'm going to turn this over to Dr. Menzel.
Well, good evening, President Sinowski, Vice President Werner, and members of the governing board. We hope that each of you enjoyed our pre-meeting performance by the Pueblo Elementary School Mariachi Band and Mrs. Bandolin's 5th grade guitar class. Now we want you to meet some of their classmates and next-door neighbors. Our Director of Communications and Marketing, Christine Harrington, is going to kick things off for us this evening. Christine?
Sinowski, Vice President Warner, Governing Board members, Dr. Menzel and Gladys, and all of you joining us here today or tuning in live on YouTube. Thank you for joining us tonight. I'd also like to thank our Pueblo Elementary School Mariachi and 5th grade guitarists for an awesome performance. Thank you guys. I'd also like to invite up our Pueblo student ambassadors that may also be in the audience, any others, as well as Swaro student ambassadors. Yes, please join us. And Dan Milligan, Swaro Assistant Principal, Shelly Hummin, Pueblo Principal, and Christy Bandolin, Pueblo Music Teacher. Oh, there you are. Okay, perfect. Now, as you may have heard, the school district is a finalist for the Sterling Award. This is the 37th year that the Scottsdale Chamber of Commerce has honored organizations demonstrating excellence, innovation, and community stewardship. And SUSD is a finalist in the big business category. Last month, we had just 1 hour to demonstrate to a panel of judges all that makes SUSD great. As you can imagine, with 21,000 students, a wide array of unique program offerings across our 30 schools and 2,600 employees, this was a lot to do in just 1 hour. It was not an easy feat. Lucky for us, Pueblo Elementary School, home to the district Spanish dual language immersion program and newly rebuilt thanks to widespread stakeholder support of our 2016 bond measure, is right next door to Saguaro High School, which is home to a number of different CTE programs, the Math and Science Academy, and Innovation Center, making it possible for the judges to see quite a bit in a very short amount of time. Of course, the reason why we are all here tonight and the reason why we might win this Sterling Award is because kids. So who better than our students to take the judges on the tours? Pueblo and Saguaro students shared their love for learning. They also shared examples of opportunities they've already had, the internships and jobs they've already earned because of what they've already learned in our schools. They clearly demonstrated their talents and engaged in great conversations. Pueblo students had the judges singing along to Decaloris, and Saguaro students had the judges in lab coats, examining material under microscopes, learning CPR, and engaging in experiments with Sisters in STEM. All in all, it was a beautiful representation of all that this district has to offer and experienced in just an hour. Whew. So thank you, students, principals, and teachers for making this most memorable. Now we'd like to present each of you, each of our student ambassadors, our musicians here tonight, and our teacher, thank you, Christy, for being here, with a Because Kids SUSD Challenge coin. So Dr. Menzel is making a round to present you with all of those. Our Pueblo student ambassadors, Cadence Andrew, Izzy Corey, Charlie Madden, Caden Quigley, Huxley Talcott, Caden Thompson, and Kaylee Yerkes, thank you. Saguaro, we had Kate Dalton, Eric Morgan, Delia Riley, Nikhil Sethi, and Alex Stevenson. Thank you so much, students. And then our musicians here, they've done this show for us now 3 times. And in fact, it's been so impressive that the Scottsdale Area Realtors Association is coming back later this week and bringing 25 members of their leadership team for this same experience. So we really appreciate, because we do know that it's an inconvenience, but it's so great to see the demonstration of learning that's happening. So to our musicians here tonight, Dallas Marriott, Kinsley Adapor, Raya Chacon, William Engelman, Judah Gill, Avery Hubble, Kaylee Lattimore, Benicio Santoyo, Hudson Sexton Rogers, Asher Fogel, Lily Panahi, Conrad Worthington, and Nixon Cushing. So thank you all very, very, very much. We are just gonna step outside for a picture too, guys.
Cadence, halfway.
Thank you all very much. I enjoy celebrating, and I was fortunate enough to be able to tag along on the tour for the Chamber Judges, and I can tell you that it was truly impressive to watch our students tell the story about their educational experience both at Pueblo and Saguaro High School. Thank you, Mrs. Bandelin, Mrs. Humman, Mr. Milligan, for your combined efforts. We are very proud of you. We have just a few more things to highlight in our celebrations this evening. First, fall 2023 high school theater productions. The spotlights and footlights will be on during the next few weeks as fall theater productions take the stage. At Chaparral High School next Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, the curtains go up on a classic, The Crucible. And at Saguaro High School, the following Wednesday, Thursday, and Saturday, an adaptation of Lewis Carroll's Alice in Wonderland, penned by outstanding SaberCats class of 23 grad Spencer Waring, will be presented. Find the show times and ticket information on our district website calendar or in the arts section of the September SUSD source. And here at Coronado High School last weekend, theater students undertook the challenge of writing, producing, and presenting a play in only 24 hours. I want to thank theater teacher Chelsea Brosnan for making this fun, engaging opportunity possible for Coronado's drama students. Also, I want to call attention to the fact that this is Arts and Education Week. All of that is a perfect introduction to the celebration of the National Arts and Education Week. Arts education comprised of a rich array of disciplines, including dance, music, theater, choir, band, orchestra, and visual arts as core academic subject and essential element of a complete and well-rounded education for all students. We are fortunate in Scottsdale Unified to offer K-12 arts education to all of our students. These programs can be a crucial component of your child's school life. Whether practicing lines for a play or cutting up magazine scraps for a collage, children use art to tap into their creative side and hone skills that might not focus on other content areas, but so very important in terms of a well-rounded education. So next time you see one of our amazing Scottsdale arts educators, please thank them for the work they do with our students from the youngest grade levels all the way through high school. Truly something to be proud of in this district. Then tomorrow we will learn the names of the Class of 2024 National Merit Scholarship Program semifinalists. This nationwide pool of about 16,000 comes from among the more than 1.3 million students at 21,000 high schools who took the qualifying PSAT and MSQT last year when they were juniors, and it represents less than 1% of the nation's high school senior class. These academically talented high school seniors have an opportunity to advance in the competition for more than 7,000 national merit scholarships worth nearly $28 million that will be offered next spring. So we're excited to learn who our top students are, and we'll support them in the work that now needs to be done to move to the finalist stage in February. And with that, we'll conclude our celebrations this evening.
Thank you very much, Dr. Menzel. Yes, that is a lot of great celebrations going on. Appreciate that. And now we move on to the part of our agenda that calls for governing board reports. Are there any governing board members that would like to share a report this evening? Vice President Werner.
I just want to take a moment to recognize the Pueblo Elementary Mariachi Band and the guitar class. That was fabulous, and it's really great to see some of the amazing programs and the talent that we have in our schools. Thanks.
Board Member Carney.
Thank you, President Sanowski. So I just wanted to thank everyone who is here in attendance tonight, in person and online. Since I've joined the board in January, I've viewed these governing board reports as a way that elected officials can briefly fill you in on how we're involved in the district and how to encourage you to be involved alongside us as well. So I recently got to visit Desert Canyon Elementary for the first time and learn more about their unique learning community with their Mandarin program. And I love learning from Principal Mills that she's got a very strong, involved parent group, and she said she's a really loyal, dedicated staff, so she experienced very little turnover this school year, so that's really great. I also got to attend the Arizona School Board Association Law Conference with some of my colleagues this past week and learned some great things, as well as made great connections with other board members from around the state. I also want to remind parents that they are able to go review the new K-5 ELA curriculum that's being considered for adoption any school day from 9 to 3 at Laguna Elementary School, now until November 14th, if anyone's interested. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Hart-Wells, do you have a report to share this evening?
Yes, thank you, President Sanowski. I'm not going to talk about myself. Rather, I would like to continue to highlight some more of our exemplary students, if I may, starting with Reese Rinaldi at Saguaro High School and Dylan Tapley of Desert Mountain High School, each of whom participated in recording messages to teens around the state, public service messages in support of Teen Suicide Prevention Awareness Month. They are part of a very important campaign to provide messages of hope to their peers who may be struggling with depression, anxiety, or thoughts of suicide. The PSAs are part of Teen Lifeline's efforts to remind every kid, regardless of their gender, ethnicity, sexuality, academic, or athletic achievements, that they matter and they're not alone. I also want to thank all of those who have attended the M&O Override Town Halls so far and encourage all of our SUSD voters to attend any of the remaining sessions to get all the accurate information on the M&O budget, expenditures, and how the district has made effective use of the current override tax dollars. And last but certainly not least, I hope I see everybody at the upcoming Sisters in STEM annual event on September 30th. Because science is fun, and I will end there. Thank you.
All right, and for my governing board report, I would just like to add that I had the opportunity to also participate in the Arizona School Board Association, the Law Conference, and the statewide delegate assembly. this past week and over the weekend. I had the opportunity to also visit schools and meet with various community members. And seeing that there are no other requests for board reports, we're going to move on to public comments. Just a reminder that the decorum statement has been shared and those expectations apply to the public comment section of our meeting. We value everyone's input, especially when it's focused on ideas to improve our practices. Because of the number of speakers that we have this evening, each speaker will get 1.5 minutes. It will be timed. A brief little bell will go off to remind you that your time is up and your microphone will get cut at that time. When you get to the microphone, please, just note that there is a screen over the microphone itself, and that is actually a noise distribution filter. So please don't touch that outside round disc. The microphone is actually behind it. And if you need help adjusting the microphone accordingly, we'll get someone to help you. Again, you'll have 1.5 minutes. Please state your first and last name and your association to our school district. Starting off would be Mary Gaudio.
Hello, Superintendent Menzel, Gladys, governing board members. My name is Mary Gaudio. I am a community member and a proud supporter of our public schools. On October 11th, special election ballots will be mailed out to all SUSD voters asking for a continuation of the currently approved 15% M&O override last approved by voters in 2019. The new authorization will take effect, if approved, will it take effect July 1st, 2024, and will be in effect for 7 years. Voters might recall that we just voted to approve a district additional assistance override in 2022. What's the difference? The DAA override funds things, whereas the M&O override funds people. This money will be used to retain and attract great teachers by protecting their salaries. It will also allow the district to maintain full-day instruction in all-day kindergarten, something that Arizona still doesn't fully fund, full-day kindergarten, believe it or not. I encourage my fellow community members to attend the upcoming remaining town halls for further details on the M&O override and what it entails. But I'm trying to rush through here. But our CFO, Shannon Crozier, does a fantastic job. She's
Up next is Rizal Longbecker, followed by Patricia Pellet.
Hello, school members. I am parent of SUSD for already 15 years. So, hello. Okay. So we are here once again asking for money every 2 years. I do not understand why, but usnews.com just give us all the school reports for every level on USA, for every single school. Our high schools, which I think they are the important ones because they are who representing us outside here, are ranked 21, 34, 42, 88, and 196 in the state of Arizona. The best one is ranking 1,285 in the USA. So our average college readiness is only 29.6%, which means 70% of our students are getting a degree without even being ready to go to college. So the new 34 SUSD KPI goals that you just said it 2 weeks ago, they are not only unrealistic, but they are also very shallow because they are set up on percentage. We need raw data. We needed to know how much students are right now involved in something and how much is your percentage they're going to make them better. How much those KPI that you tell us will increase the Coronado and Arcadia is 22.8 and 18.1 readiness to college. So I don't think it is okay if we are not.
Patricia Pellet is up, followed by Rebecca Fisk.
Hi, I'm Patricia Pellet. Good evening, Governing Board. The same institutions attacking parental rights now wants to be your child's family. Dr. Menzel has stated many times that a child doesn't get to pick their family, and he's correct. But don't worry, as SUSD is here now to fill the void. There was a worksheet that was apparently given in an SUSD classroom and sourced from a site that says it's meant to redefine the family. It asks the students to fill in the blanks. 1, my home family has X number of members. My school family has X number of members. My home family has X number of adults. My school family has X number of adults. My home family has X number of children. My school family has X number of children. I asked my 4th grader what would be his answers. He surprised me when he told me, Mom, my 1st grade, 2nd grade, and 3rd grade teacher all told us that we were all a family. Are parents aware and okay with this practice? Is this normal? I would like the board to investigate if this worksheet is approved curriculum and whether teachers telling our kids we're all family is appropriate. Thank you.
Rebecca Fisk, followed by Michelle Ingram.
Hi, my name is Rebecca Fisk. I'm an alum of SUSD, and I have 4 kids who have attended multiple schools from Hopi to Arcadia, Mountainside, and Desert Mountain. And I want to thank you all for serving in this capacity. I'm here today to voice my concern and opposition to the proposal to no longer hear the voices, the council members' activities. You are all elected officials. We like to hear what you are doing. President Stanowski, you've been here for 10 years. We've been able to hear your activities. And now all of a sudden we have some new voices and we don't want to hear them anymore. Well, we do. We want to hear it all. We want to hear the good and the beautiful and maybe the bad and maybe the ugly. We want the full transparency. And that will help develop some more trust that I know we could use in this community. This is all being done under the banner of efficiency. But my question is it? Or is it maybe being done under a banner of censoring voices? And when I read that this was going on, the first thing I thought about that has bugged me for months is the meeting back on February 21st. There was a huge turnout. Superintendent Menzel was on national news, and it was the hot topic. And we were all in there, and I just was so baffled that none of the board members spoke about it. They just passed by and they didn't mention the hot topic. But when they got to the president, she spent quite a bit of time on it. I would say 5 minutes, and I was...
Michelle Ingram, followed by Ashton Doles.
Good evening. My name is Michelle Ingram. I'm a community member. I no longer have children at SUSD. They've all graduated. Tonight, I'm speaking on behalf of a group of concerned parents who came to me to let me know about a situation at Hopi Elementary. Through them, it has come to my attention that there is a 5th grade transgender child who is being allowed to use whichever restroom the child desires. Our culture has begun to use buzzwords such as inclusivity and equality to describe the decision-making behind situations such as this. I'm up here to ask, what about the other children in the school? The girls who do not want a boy in their bathroom or vice versa. Are we being inclusive of their thoughts and feelings? Are we treating those who view this policy as upsetting with equality? There are 2 sexes. There are males and females. It is not a fluid situation or something that can be changed. I believe that until fairly recently, even the public schools taught that there were 2 genders. I can understand how kids today might be confused. Books, social media, and teachers are all affirming that gender is fluid. U of A is even training their nurses to ask kids as young as 3 years old if they feel trapped in their bodies. These adults are failing our youth. Our kids need love and guidance, not adults perpetuating the lie that gender can be changed. We need to demonstrate this to those who do not want a person of the opposite sex in their bathrooms, that they are respected as well. I'm here to ask that you protect this space and protect the use of the bathrooms for those males and females.
Michelle Ingram, followed by Ashton Doles. Oh, I'm sorry, Ashton Dulles is up, followed by Jeff Rattay. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Ashton Dolce, and I'm a junior here in Scottsdale. First, I would like to recognize that I think we should all keep a fifth grader out of the conversation when we're discussing what parents and the school board should be focusing on. But going on, I would like to talk about the 10 students, 11 more plus, to hear about what we want as students. We're specifically advocating for green buses as a form of transportation for the Scottsdale Unified School District. We are all students who will be impacted by climate change in the future, and we find it imperative that if SUSD commits to a safe and clean environment, they should push forward with real and tangible solutions. With an impending climate catastrophe, our futures are on the line, and the logic is clear. It's better for the environment. By stopping the release of greenhouse gases, we are fighting the climate crisis. It's better for our health. By terminating exposure to carcinogenic emissions to students, we are protecting the health of every child. It's better for this board's budget. By taking advantage of subsidies and low operational costs, we can push forward with replacing old buses. After this speech, you will hear more students detail their own personal issues with the climate crisis and advocate forward for green buses. SUSD has the funding, the resources. There is a demand for green buses, but this board needs the moral will. This board should push forward with establishing green buses. We've talked with Dr. Hartwells about solar panels, but today we're advocating for green buses as a real and tangible solution for a high-income school district like this one.
Sorry, Jeff Rattay, followed by Susan Winder.
Following 15 years of dedicated service as a full-time substitute teacher, coach, and volunteer veteran presenter for the Joe Foss Institute, I was fired over the phone for constantly arguing and verbally harassing the staff at the district office. I was suspicious, so I demanded to see a copy of my personnel file. Sure enough, there were 2 fraudulent documents that had been secretly, let me repeat, secretly placed in my file. Here's one of them, an evaluation filled out at the end of the year by the principal of Kokopah Middle School. That year, I had subbed over 70 days, coached baseball for 10 weeks, coached flag football for 10 weeks, all at Kokopah, never received a single complaint. This is complete garbage. Is the substitute teacher professional and appropriate in appearance and demeanor? No. Is the substitute follow instructions and lesson plans? No. Did the substitute adhere to Scottsdale district policies? No. Did the substitute relate well to the students? No. How about this one? Did the substitute take appropriate steps to ensure student safety and security? No. 2 days later, the Chief Advocacy Officer of the Scottsdale Education Association emailed me a copy of the Governing Board's Personnel Policies and Procedures Manual. This is what it says. Material which concerns an employee's conduct, service, character, and personality will not be placed in a teacher's file unless he or she has the opportunity to read such material. The teacher will acknowledge that he or she has read such material by affixing his or her signature to the actual copy to be filed. The appropriate district administrator will also initial, and a copy will be issued to the teacher. Such signature does not necessarily indicate agreement. The teacher will have the right to answer any material filed.
Susan Winder, followed by Jana L. Gangahi.
2 minutes, President Sinowski was to cut me off. She knew I was going to go through this. Exactly what happened.
Susan Winder, and I have grandchildren in the district. I was not able to attend the August 29th meeting because I had surgery. So I listened to the video and was going to comment on that tonight, except I helped my grandson with homework, 8th grade Kokopah, coming here before this, and I am furious. Here is one of the things on his social studies worksheet that's on a test for tomorrow about the United States Constitution. In a democracy, citizens enter into a blank in which all give up some rights for the good of the entire group. I was sitting there, and my son-in-law, who's an attorney, went in and printed out the law definition of democracy. Now, why this teacher did that, I have no idea. Was it a misprint? Does she believe that? Does she believe that's your philosophy? But this is sinful, and it's what's practiced across the United States right now. I've never spoken extemporaneously. It gets me upset. I've talked about curriculum here before, and in some instances you have decent curriculum, but you do not make the teachers use it. And Dr. Menzel has said publicly that's the principal's responsibility. Well, who the hell do the principals work for? You, sir. Teachers do not have the expertise, the background, or the education to develop curriculum. If they did, they would develop their own curriculum company. Most of these things have no publication information on it, so that's either theirs or it's illegal because they don't have that on there. And by the way, my sister was at the board meeting.
Janet L. Gangahi, followed by Bahana Olta.
My name is Janet Elkingahi, and I'm currently a junior living in Scottsdale. As a person living in Scottsdale, I've had to learn to plan my entire day around the heat. Hanging out with friends outside is not an option. Playing an outdoor sport is completely out of the question. I can't walk my dog outside unless it's dark, because we can't stand even 5 minutes of the heat. The heat limits every part of my day. While this sounds terrible, imagine what it is like for those less privileged than us, unable to pay for the rising cost of air conditioning despite its increasing necessity. Imagine what it is like for those who have no shelter, forced to make their homes on the sweltering streets where the concrete can reach 180 degrees Fahrenheit and people can get life-threatening burns. Arizona is becoming inhabitable. The first reason why SUSD needs green buses is because it will benefit our environment in transformational ways. In a study by Bellwether Education Partners, diesel buses and personal vehicle trips for school transportation were found to emit millions of tons of greenhouse gases per year into the environment. Earth 911 found in a comprehensive study that replacing one diesel bus with an electric one can reduce greenhouse gas emissions by 54,000 pounds each year. That's the equivalent of 3.75 pounds of carbon dioxide for every mile driven. For the 2021 to 2022 school year, the SUSD bus fleet drove an average of 4,041 miles a day. According to Earth 911 study, that's a 17,379-pound reduction of carbon dioxide emissions a day. It's clear that reducing greenhouse gas emissions is a path to stopping the climate crisis, and transitioning to green buses does exactly that.
Bahavin Olta, followed by Riva Kaul.
Hello, my name is Bhavna Allah, and I'm a
Riva Kaul, followed by Uma.
Believe it or not, this is how most children feel, even in America. In a comprehensive study, the Journal of Health Economics found that diesel buses carry destructive health impacts for millions of children as well. Transitioning diesel buses to green buses is particularly important for the health of students, simply because school buses negatively impact kids more than any other form of emissions. There are two reasons for this. I will explain the first, and the next speaker will explain the second. The first reason why school buses are particularly harmful to students' health is that school buses are disproportionately dirtier than any other form of land-based transportation. The national average bus age is over 9 years, and estimates suggest that the average school bus emits twice as many contaminants per mile as the average trailer truck driver. The study further found that replacing diesel buses induced statistically significant and large reductions in bronchitis, asthma, and pneumonia incidents for both children and adults with chronic respiratory conditions. Pursuing green buses literally means saving lives.
Uma, followed by Rihanna.
My name is Uma Vinay, and I'm currently a junior in high school here in Scottsdale. We often think of the climate crisis as a distant threat, but for me, the climate crisis is deeply personal. With the continued use of fossil fuels, our poor air quality has worsened my severe allergies and respiratory issues. Living in a notoriously polluted city, pollution means my health is on the line. In turn, my respiratory issues and allergies have caused long migraines and ailments that have impacted my school attendance and thus my education. And I'm not getting the worst of it. Pollution is exponentially worse in places outside of Phoenix. I'm not alone. Hundreds of thousands with other health issues stand with me. The second reason diesel buses are particularly harmful for students' health is their proximity to students. In contrast to most diesel vehicles, buses primarily travel through residential areas, and so individuals who are sensitive to pollution may be affected by bus emissions where they live. Diesel air pollutants are also collected inside of passenger cabins and in schoolyards, so school-aged children may be further impacted. Recent research finds that within bus concentration of particulate matter and air toxins were 4 to 12 times higher than outdoor pollution levels. It's clear that diesel buses are exposing kids across the district to carcinogenic toxins. We need green buses now.
Brianna Rain, followed by Rashmi Enzar.
Hello, my name is Rihanna Rain, and I'm currently a junior here in Scottsdale. Living in Arizona, I'm affected by the heat every day of my life. Although I enjoy the toned-down winters, the summer heat is unbearable. Last year, we adopted our first dog, Milo. We take him on walks every morning and night, and even though we knew adopting a dog would change our schedules, we didn't take the Arizona heat into account. There have been so many times when it's impossible to take Milo out on walks anytime during the day unless it's before 5 a.m. or after 10 p.m. due to these hot temperatures and hot sidewalks and roads that burn his paws. And for a young dog that's still developing, this is essential to his growth. My mom is an occupational therapist who does home-based therapy sessions with kids with special needs, and many of her patients struggle with asthma and lung issues in which the air quality in and around the school buses, especially in the summer, shows visible effects on their ability to play and function. Specifically, she notices that they have more tantrums, act more fussy, and less cooperative after riding in these hot and stuffy buses. It seems far off, but tangible research on green buses proves that green buses causally improve cognitive and physical outcomes for students. In another study by the Economics of Education, transitioning a bus fleet can lead to a 4% increase in the average cardiovascular capacity of students. And it also affects students' test scores. Transitioning a district's fleet increases English test scores by 0.14 standard deviations, as shown in a Georgia study. And that may not seem like a lot, but for comparison, the impact is equal in most cases to increasing teacher experience levels. And beyond basic health benefits, these green buses can ensure the cognitive
Rashmi Enzar, followed by David Gao.
My name is Rashmi Iyengar, and I'm currently a student living in Scottsdale. As explained by the Electric School Bus Initiative, green buses provide equity for every student. Diesel exhaust pollution endangers us all, but the threat isn't felt equally. Decades of racist discriminatory policies have left both communities of color and low-income communities disproportionately affected by toxic air pollution. And when it comes to school transportation and on-road pollution, these disturbing trends persist. For example, 60% of low-income students ride the bus to school, compared to only 45% of non-low-income students, meaning that they face more direct exposure to diesel exhaust pollution. Transitioning away from gas-powered vehicles ensures equality for every SUSD student. Today, you've heard the numerous benefits of green buses. Of course, the main argument against green buses is going to be the cost of pursuing green buses. The next few speeches after mine will cover the ability for SUSD to pay for this. First, in an average income of $88,213 USD, Scottsdale is one of the richest cities in Arizona, and as a result, SUSD reaps the benefits from property taxes on high-value homes. Scottsdale has the means to provide electric buses for its students. Second, as the Scottsdale Progress reported earlier this year, the district still has millions in COVID relief money. As of late February this year, that number was $18.4 million. SUSD must push forward with funding green buses. Thank you.
David Gua, followed by Nisha Kalvarani.
Hi, I'm David, and I'm currently a junior here at Basis Scottsdale, and I'm a citizen of the city of Scottsdale. During the summer, whenever I would go to work, I would see the thick smog in the air, and that really shows how diesel buses are causing the true damage in our environment. As a result, that makes this transition to electric buses even more necessary right now. Right now, I will talk about how SUSD has to transition. Not only will SUSD be able to fund the transition to green buses to save on costs in the future, the EPA also found that if Denver replaced 200 of its buses, it could save $461,000 per year in fuel costs. That is the amount of money of savings that can go to the school district. Furthermore, likewise, studies suggest that updating a diesel-powered vehicle to a green one is less effective. It's a more cost-effective method by improving student health and achievement. The average retrofit cost is only $8,000 in samples. Once purchased, operating and maintaining e-buses is 85% less expensive, which means that the horrendous cost of maintaining diesel buses is less when you use electric buses. Furthermore, in the benefit cost analysis, studies estimated that transitioning to green buses would create benefits between 7 and 16 times program costs. For districts not aggressively pursuing school bus transitions like this one, they are depriving themselves of the numerous benefits.
Nisha Kalkarni, and followed by Ashwit Koda. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing your names.
Hello, my name is Nisha, and I'm a junior here in Scottsdale. Most of us here today are incredibly privileged to not have to deal with the brunt of the heat here in Arizona, but many people are not. Thousands of people are forced to lie on the pavement even during the torturous months of summer, but even some lucky enough to afford housing are not protected from the heat. We simply cannot suffer through both inflation and increasing temperatures. Sorry. Parents who are hard at work in their minimum paying jobs cannot sustain the heavy prices of air conditioning, especially in this heat. When we switch to green buses, we can help to decrease the pollution these massive but necessary vehicles produce while still providing for those who need it. Oftentimes, the most expensive part of transitioning to green buses is the cost of establishing electrical infrastructure for the buses. However, the cost will come completely free to this board. Arizona Public Services Take Charge Arizona pilot provides chargers and electrical infrastructure at no cost to fleets. Likewise, the federal government Green Bus program will be providing billions over the next decade to establish green buses and infrastructure. Applications are on a rolling basis, and SUSD should be as active as possible in applying. We emailed Director of Transport for the district, Mr. D. Jacobson, about this very application, but we have received no response at this time. Programs exist to fund these types of initiatives. There is absolutely no reason this rich school district can't figure this out. Thank you.
Ashwita Code, followed by Mercer Rolfe.
Hello, my name is Aswita Kode, and I'm a Scottsdale student. Today we heard many speeches about why green buses will benefit the SUSD. Pursuing green buses involves a lot of technical, logical management, but I don't want us to forget the personal, emotional impact it has on all of us. I want to share my personal journey with you, a journey that has opened my eyes to the harsh reality of climate change and its devastating effects on our world. As a child, I marveled at the beauty of nature and the majestic wildlife that thrived around me. I remember spending countless hours outdoors exploring, connecting with the environment. Back then, the idea of climate change seemed distant and abstract, something that scientists talked about on TV. Little did I know that this was a looming threat that would soon become an inescapable reality of my life. I spent a lot of my time outside as a child, but slowly I stayed more and more inside because of the extreme heat. Fast forward a couple of years, and the signs of climate change were becoming increasingly evident. The parks I used to go to as a child were bare, and the swimming pools became unbearably hot. Extreme weather events were more frequent, and summers were hotter than ever before. But it wasn't until I experienced a catastrophic natural disaster firsthand that the gravity of the situation truly hit me. Just a couple years ago, a devastating wildfire struck on our annual camping spot due to excessive heat, leaving behind a trail of destruction and heartbreak. We planned to go on our annual trip as normal, but when we arrived, our camp spot was empty. Trees were ripped apart, lives were lost, and the landscape I cherished as a child was forever altered. This devastation was a wake-up call, a harsh reminder that climate change is not a distant threat, it is a present danger that affects us all. Personal changes alone are not enough to address the scale of this global crisis. We need ambitious policies to combat this crisis, including
Mercer Roll, followed by Lana Darren.
Hi there, my name is Mercer Rolfe. I am a mom of 2 boys that go to Cochise Elementary. Thank you for the opportunity to be able to speak tonight. I'm here just to talk about the importance of security at our school, and a reminder that's still a very hot topic among parents. I understand we're not able to have a dedicated SRO at our elementary schools, and as you know, we have a dedicated SRO at high schools, middle schools, but not elementary schools. And I don't think anyone wants to live in the land of regret. I think this should be an absolute top priority in addition to getting security at our schools at minimum. And if we are able to get security at our schools, higher security positions, actually communicating this in a way that people are going to find out about it, not just posting on the website, but leveraging other resources so that people know that this is something that we are hiring for. And on the topic of communication, I feel like we could do a better job of talking to our parents about security. I've been very involved with it. My friends that are here as well have been. And what we found from talking to other parents is they really don't know what's going on when it comes to security at our schools. So I would just say if we could level up in our communication about security and then actually provide security itself at our elementary schools, that would be wonderful. Thank you so much.
Lana Darren, followed by Mike Bengert.
Good evening. My name is Lana Darren, and I am a resident of Scottsdale, born and raised. I'm a mother of 2 attending Cochise Elementary School, a pre-K and a first grader. When I first got introduced to the school system, I quickly recognized that I carry quite a big passion for security and safety. There's a lot going on in our country, and it just made my ears perk up and pay attention to what's happening, eyes and ears at the school. I recognize that it was a big disconnect between the middle schools and the high schools having representation on site with security guards as well as SROs. When I looked into the matter much further, understanding that elementary schools do not have any representation on site. I recognize they can pull from the higher levels, but they don't have dedicated security. So with that in mind, it leaves our elementary schools truly open to a lot of risk. And I certainly want to ensure, I know our board is passionate about our community and our administrators and teachers, and that we're protecting and doing everything we can to support our district, our community members, our students, our teachers, and making sure that we're focused on every safety measure that we can and being proactive versus reactive. So by hiring elementary security guards, full-time, dedicated, I feel that that will start to put us in a direction to provide better communication with our Director of Safety and Security and provide on-site eyes and ears to elevate any risks that might be imposed to our elementary schools. Thank you for your time this evening.
Mike Bengert, followed by Melissa Ghali.
My name is Mike Bengert. I'm a grandfather here in the district. Parents, do you know that Arizona Revised Statutes 15102 requires a district to have procedures by which parents may learn about the nature and purpose of extracurricular activities and clubs? Go to ScottsdaleUnites.com website, click on the Be Aware tab, and read about some of the clubs and activities that SUSD actively promotes. Compare what you find to the information on the school's websites about the clubs and activities, and decide for yourself if the district is following the law and telling you the truth. Read about Unitown and Minitown. SUSD claims that these clubs are leadership clubs, yet children children are secretly being exposed to gender identity, sexual orientation, and social justice lessons. By withholding the details of these clubs' activities, is SUSD in fact interfering with your fundamental rights under ARS 1602 to direct the upbringing and education of your child? According to a December 2021 statement from Dr. Menzel, these are student-initiated clubs, but are they really? Go on the Scottsdale Unite's website, listen to the Gender Sexuality Alliance Club video from Kokopah, and you can decide who is initiating this club. Parents, talk to your kids, find out what they're involved with at school. Governing board, follow the law and be honest with parents. I urge all parents to join Scottsdale Unites and sign up for their newsletter so you can be informed about what is really going on in the district. It's time to get involved.
Melissa Gully.
Good evening, board members and community. I am Dr. Melissa Galley, a mother of 2 Cochise Elementary students and a daughter of a retired teacher. I'm here also requesting elementary at our security levels. I think from tonight's board meeting and just in the public in general, we are faced with more contentious situations and topics that are also arising at younger ages. I think that we need to have a mediator on campus to help de-escalate these tense situations. These security officers and parties can be a mediator between these aggressive parties, and having somebody that can focus on de-escalation allows a more favorable learning environment, which will ultimately also protect school property. We want to allow our teachers to teach, we want to allow our students to learn, and we ultimately want all protection for Scottsdale Unified District students, teachers, staff, and healthcare providers within our walls. We thank you for your time, and we look forward to hearing communication on how the board intends to address our lack of representation of security at our elementary level. Thank you.
That concludes the public comment version of our meeting tonight. I'd like to remind the governing board members and the public that governing board members can respond to, at the conclusion of this, they can respond to public comment. I don't have anyone else. Nope.
Able for me to, no?
Sorry.
All right, appreciate it.
Next meeting. Thank you. Governing board members do have the opportunity to respond to criticism briefly and factually, ask the superintendent to review an issue, or ask for a matter to be placed on a future agenda. Do any governing board members have comment at this time? Board Member Werner.
Yeah, I have 3. I'd like for the superintendent to follow up and clarify the assignment on the Constitution and the definition of democracy, and ensure that all our staff are teaching the kids accurate things about the Constitution. The second one is the family assignment. I did see that on social media. I didn't know if it was actually happening in our district, so I'd like to follow up on that and to see if that's happening in our district. And lastly, I think that we do need to do a better job of communicating about security. So if you could communicate what has transpired when it comes to security and the additional security officers that are being hired and so on, I think that'd be very effective for our community to know that.
Thank you. Are there any others? Dr. Hartwells, are you interested in providing some input?
I do not have anything to say. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Seeing that there are no other requests, I would like to refer to our superintendent to conduct an evaluation on the use of green buses in our SUSD. Appreciate students bringing that forward. I'd also like for Dr. Menzel to work with our legal counsel to provide additional verification to Mr. Rattay. And then I want to make clear for the record that the minute and a half, I came up with that this evening. It was advised to me to follow that because of the number of speakers and the amount of time that we provide to our public to give public commentary. So that had nothing to do with any of the topics or subjects. We just try to fit everyone in. Also, to clarify a fact, that I have not been on, though it seems like it, I have not been on the board for 10 years. I have been directly involved in the district since 2005 as an educator, and then more recently, the last 2.5 years as a governing board member. So I wanted to clarify that for the record. Also, to make certain that the public understands that the override election that is on the ballot is open for voters that live in the SUSD boundaries. I concur with Board Member Werner on the security clarifications because we've discussed this in the past. So I thank you, Dr. Menzel, for looking into that more carefully, and also to verify to the public that one of the clubs mentioned on Unitown and Minitown do require parental permission for their participation in that practice. So it does require parental permission, and I believe it still does. And then also it's students can choose. It's not something that is forced on any student. That is it for the redirect or the commentary from the public comment, Dr. Menzel. We are going to move on to our superintendent's comments. Dr. Menzel.
Thank you, President Sanowski and members of the governing board. Just a few quick comments in addition to what we've already discussed. There's positive news. Over the last 2 weeks, our enrollment has increased by 33 students. And so we think that's worth noting. 33 students multiplied by 7,500 or more per student is not inconsequential. Secondly, the Student Advisory Board will hold its first meeting of this school year next week, and I'm looking forward to re-engaging with the members of the Student Advisory Board and hearing their reports at future governing board meetings. Thirdly, I also had an opportunity, along with Dr. Benson, Dr. Sackos, and our 3 governing board members, to attend the ASBA Law Conference. And it's an opportunity for us to hear a number of emerging and important topics of interest and importance for the school district, and look forward to continuing to apply what we've learned to enhance our ability to comply with state and federal statute. Finally, it's been mentioned several times, but I just want to highlight it again that we have maintenance and operating override town halls. Tomorrow night, it will be at Arcadia, Mount Olympus, beginning at 6 p.m. A week from tonight, the town hall will be here at Coronado High School, and the final one will be at Chaparral High School on September 26th. All of these meetings start at 6. They're open to the public, and we look forward to answering questions that people may have. We will also be starting our annual learning community town halls next week. The first one will happen at Arcadia. The information on the times and locations of these series of town hall events can be found on the SUSD website. And we always look forward to hearing what our stakeholders are thinking and sharing with them our many undertakings that are contributing to making SUSD education world-class and future-focused. Thank you, President Sanowski.
Yep. Thank you, Dr. Menzel. And I do want to comment, I do appreciate the efforts that our employees do make to extend communication into our community with these forums and town halls. That is a new practice in Scottsdale, and I think it's a step in the right direction. Moving on in our agenda, 7 says information and discussion items, and we do not have any this evening, so we're going to move on to our consent agenda, and I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda as amended at the beginning of the meeting. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Board Member Lindsay. Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
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 That motion passes 5-0. At this time, I'd like to introduce our new in-house counsel, Nick Buzan. He's in the back of the room over there. Welcome aboard to SUSD. And we're going to move on to 9 action items. And I do note to the public that when we have action items on the agenda, that means that board action is required. And so those are the issues that we vote upon. First would be the 9A, the approval of performance-based pay plans for cabinet administrators. Dr. Menzel.
Well, thank you again, President Sanowski and members of the governing board. In your board packet, you have recommended performance pay plan goals for the various members of cabinet. Those who have cabinet level contracts, the amount is $5,000. For those who are at the executive director or chief systems officer, it's $3,500. For directors, it's $2,500. The performance pay plans that you see here were developed after the board identified the key performance indicators for the upcoming school year, and more specifically, identified the priority KPIs for the coming school year. Cabinet had a conversation last Tuesday about how to identify the goals for each of the members of the team, not only with respect to their area of responsibility, but also with respect to the overall team. And so you'll see that it's differentiated based on the role and responsibility. The performance pay here doesn't mean that team members aren't contributing in other ways, because every member of our team is working to contribute to advance the mission, vision, and values of our school district, living into our strategic plan and focusing on the things that we've committed to within that plan. And so while these represent the performance pay component of their goals, they don't represent all of the goals that each individual will have. This is one subset of those goals, and the recommendation is before you this evening to approve those as presented.
Governing board members, do any of you have any questions or comments on the proposal before you? Board Member Kearney.
Thank you, President Sanowski. So did the administrators that are listed in this performance pay plan tonight, did they have a say in their goals?
Yes, we discussed this at Cabinet, and each person drafted their own goals, and then it was reviewed by the person who supervises them before they were put in the board packet.
Okay, so you did gather their input and buy-in on these performance?
Yes, they're the ones who suggested them, and if there were modifications, they were done in collaboration.
Okay. Just going through them, I was just a little concerned that I saw a lot of the same goals over and over. So we're paying people for the same goal over and over, such as the attendance rate, raising that to 92.5% or better, was listed for 6 administrators. So I'm just wondering if you could tell me why that is. That looked to be the number one, the top goal for everyone. For example, I have one, like Ms. Watt, why would she be assigned this goal as Chief Systems Officer?
So we're one team working towards one goal to advance outcomes for our students. When you look at the data and the correlation analysis that was done by our SIMAR department, it's very clear that attendance and the correlation with respect to achievement on the state administered test is pretty significant. And as a cabinet team, we talked about we are all in this together. Everyone has a role to play to support and encourage positive attendance. And while arguably there are people on this list that can't impact or don't impact some of these specific academic indicators, we can all work to create a culture and climate where students come to school every day, they feel supported, they feel safe, and so that's why the attendance goal in particular surfaced to the level of one that could be common across more members of cabinet, whereas if you think about high school achievement, that wouldn't be appropriate for just about anyone except for Dr. Benson and Dr. Sakos, and so it's those kinds of conversations that we had at the cabinet level.
Right, but I specifically was asking about the Chief Systems Officers. For example, I mean, it's hard to, we just have these goals we don't, put in front of us, but we're not sure how they're going to be implemented. So how would she be working to increase attendance in her role?
The entire technology infrastructure is designed to support the system. So when you think about cyber safety and security, when we think about how we ensure that our students are supported in accessing the technology that's necessary to participate in the curricular offerings that we have at Scottsdale Unified, the technology team plays a really important role there. It's all about creating a culture and climate that supports the needs of our students. And if you took technology out of that, it would have a negative impact. And so that's why that goal was one that could be landed on as a common goal.
Okay. I think I was just looking, obviously we have common goals, and I just figured the pay for performance goals would be more individualized than the common goals that we should all be working toward together as part of, regular salaried pay. But One thing I saw a concern that struck me on the Director of Communications and Marketing, there's no increased student enrollment goal, and I know we were spending a lot of money on marketing to market to people to come to our schools, and so I was just wondering why that wasn't a goal for that department.
To be clear, these are individual pay for performance goals. These are levels that they can achieve above and beyond their normal success in our district, and they're individual goals, and they're not department goals.
And I was just reviewing to make sure. At the end of the day, the increased enrollment is one that's on my KPIs, and every participant within our team has a role to play there. Again, we worked with the administrator to identify the performance targets here. Anything that's not listed as performance pay doesn't mean it's not a priority or an area of focus for the team.
Okay, I'm just gonna, I have a lot of.
Ms. Harrington would like to weigh in on this.
Perfect.
Excuse me, Governing Board. It is, in fact, one of my goals.
It is?
Yeah, it's at the top of the second page, increasing enrollment.
Oh, yeah, you're right. It's just, it's
I
hidden
agree.
there.
That's a major.
By 25%, that is a goal. I thought it was there, I just didn't see it because it's at the very top of that page.
Yes.
Looks like a header, but it's not a header. It's right there, and it's 25% of her performance pay.
Okay.
Thank you, Christine.
Where?
Thank you for the indulgence.
I'm sorry, where is that at?
The very top of the second page, under optimized resources, 25%.
Oh, it does look
increase.
like a header. You're right. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, because I assumed that would be one of the goals. So thank you for pointing that out. It didn't look exactly like the header from the front. Lastly, I'm just going to mention one thing on Dr. Benson's. I just was wondering why, I'd never heard of this, that she's to put together a calendar committee, and I'm wondering why this is a pay for performance goal.
So there are a couple of areas where there are things that are identified that are important work that take a significant amount of time. And in thinking about where we would allocate that, the calendar committee is one that has tremendous impact for our community. It takes a lot of time. It can often be controversial, yet it's really important work that gets done for the next 3 years. When you want to emphasize the importance of getting a project done, putting a component in performance pay helps ensure that it gets the attention that it needs. And the calendar committee, as we think about the future, is one of those important priorities. If it wasn't here on performance pay, it's possible it could slip. We do have an extra year before we would need to do that, but our families appreciate having more advance notice about what the calendar will be as they plan vacations and their schedules with their family, and so we thought we would reify it here with a small percentage of her performance pay and yet still signify that we believe the calendar is an important priority for her work in the coming year.
Okay, thank you.
Board Member Warner.
Well, I want to take a moment to thank the staff that worked on the KPI team and let you know that I appreciate all your hard work. I know you followed the instructions that you were given. So while I made it clear last meeting that I did not agree with a number of the metrics being measured, and I will say now I don't agree with how they're being distributed among staff as well, what I do want you to know is I support you, and I will be supporting this vote today.
Dr. Hart-Wells, do you have anything to add? I do not hear any.
Yes.
Oh,
Yep,
go ahead. Go ahead.
Sorry, a little technical difficulty there. I actually have a question as well. In the overall kind of cover sheet of the KPIs for the cabinet and leadership, the optimized resources does not include the develop a plan and implement at least one proposal on the effective use of our assets, our land use assets, but yet it is listed under two of the leadership's performance plans, but it's not here on this blanket cover sheet. Am I just misreading this? Oh, no, this is Dr. Benson, I guess. So it is included, is that right?
It's included in mine and Mr. Rayler's, but not in Dr. Benson's.
No, Doctor, so it's in Shannon's
It's in
as well.
Shannon's as well, so
Okay.
3, yes.
Okay, I see it. However, neither in yours, although we'll get to that in a minute, or the cabinet or the leadership, is the Algebra 1 passing by the end of 9th grade. Can you please describe why that's missing?
So it's included in mine, but not in the cabinet. As we looked at academic achievement, there are a lot of different ways to measure it. This was a new KPI, and we landed on the assessed measures through the standardized assessment as the KPI for cabinet-level individuals as a measure of progress along the journey. So for elementary, you have those levels. For middle school and high school, while grading is important, it's more subjective. It is an indicator of success, and it's an important KPI to have added, but it's also one that we've never had before. So we're not even sure how that data will look. It might be something that's a better metric in future years, but not one that we know until we actually get through this full cycle. So we decided that the standardized assessment was a more consistent and recognized measure related to academic performance in those areas.
So I just want to point out that the decrease in the percentage of students scoring minimally proficient in math is also new, one. While it is a state assessment, the bar was lowered by the superintendent. So we also don't know how that one will play out. I'm disappointed that the algebra is not here, since the teaching and learning staff are going to be the ones to implement on that. I'm going to be on record. I'm disappointed that that didn't make it through. We talked about how important, and there's data to support how important strong math skills are going into high school and critical thinking, and particularly to elevate science scores. I'll stop there.
Do you have anything to comment? Nope. Okay. And I would like to recognize that these measurements are really put in place not to substitute the other assignments that our employees do, but to direct focus to support students' well-being and their success. But it also is important that we recognize that throughout the district, everyone is responsible for all of our KPIs, whether it's a direct responsibility or indirect. So for example, an ELA or English Language Arts teacher could be providing support in mathematics instruction and critical thinking in the ELA class. So when you look at our key performance indicators as a district, this isn't just these aren't the only things we're going to focus on, but these are identified as our goals. So we look to the past to see what we need to improve on, and then we look to the future on where we want to be. And so these KPIs kind of give a little snapshot, more direction to the employees that qualify for these pay for performance incentives. So for example, I think our directors of elementary and secondary instruction, they play a huge role in retaining employees. By supporting our principals and supporting best instructional practices, we support our teachers and we support our students. So there's really this chain of events that takes place with our key performance indicators. So, you know, I also wanted to just make note that I really appreciated when it came to retention of employees, that the factors that employees, and including the governing board, cannot control, like retirements, separations due to performance, and those moving from the area, to take those out of the formula to truly measure more accurate retention issues and factors. I think that's really important. Seeing that there are no other requests for comment at this time, I'd like to make a motion to approve the performance-based pay plans for cabinet members. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Board Member Lindsay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
No.
No.
The motion passes 3-2. Moving on to approval of superintendent annual performance-based pay plan. And state statute requires the board to identify performance-based pay for the superintendent. The top priority for the superintendent is improved achievement for all of our students. ARS 15-341-39 outlines 4 board areas for consideration, but also authorizes the governing board to adopt, quote, an alternative procedure at a public meeting called for this purpose, end quote. The purpose of this action item is to adopt an alternative procedure under state law for the evaluation of the superintendent's pay for performance plan. Considering that student success is dependent on many variables, I appreciate this comprehensive approach to Dr. Menzel's pay for performance plan. I would like to ask that the term club be interjected back in, and I thought it was in there, and I don't know why it was taken out, into, as I'm looking at this plan. Where is it? Thank you. Yeah. Increase percent of students participating in extracurricular and co-curricular activities, the KPI says. I personally believe that because clubs are initiated by students and we are here for kids, that we need to engage them however possible in feeling they have a place to belong on our school campuses and show up every day. I mean, I see that as very beneficial. Also, when kids get to high school, for them to participate in extracurricular activities like athletics, they really have had to participate in intense levels of athletic competitions prior to high school. So I see there as being an access issue that we would be really denying students. Same thing with the music. I mean, even though I'd like to be in choir, an advanced choir, no choir leader would ever want me because I'm a horrible singer. But that doesn't mean I shouldn't be able to participate in a choir club if I so feel that that would be important to me. So I would like that word club to be thrown back in there. Like I said, I don't know how it was removed from that. Clubs. I do note that, Dr. Benson, go ahead.
Appreciate the question, Madam President. Just wanted to clarify that the sports clubs and fine arts, drama, music, and band, that language was referenced before. We got feedback from our governing board members during the study session. So it's defined extracurricular as sports and clubs and co-curricular activities as fine arts, drama, music, and band. So it's all inclusive in the actual priority KPI.
I appreciate that clarification. Thank you, because I think they are very meaningful to kids to find a place where they feel like they belong on our campuses. Okay, so I do note that all governing board members have had several weeks to kind of mull this over, and so I would like to make a motion at this time.
I have a comment.
Excuse me?
I have a comment.
Go ahead. You have a comment.
I do. So I've been very vocal about the KPIs and my stance on them, and I think that the metrics that matter most are student proficiency rates and achievement, staff retention, enrollment growth, and I don't see that the leadership of the superintendent is going to contribute to these metrics. I will not be voting for this today.
Board Member Carney?
Thank you, President Snowski. You've said we've had this for weeks. We just received this with the total weights recently.
The last governing board member, this was a topic of discussion.
You're right, and it was a topic of discussion, and I had asked that we increase the academic achievement to 75%, because I do believe that is our top priority. It must be our priority is getting, and we talked about this, is getting our math, especially our math scores increased. And so I had voiced in that study session that we need to raise the total weight of increased academic achievement to 75%. I even said, okay, compromise 70, and then here it is, that I think I received on Thursday, 67%. I wasn't a part of the board when Dr. Menzel's contract was amended, increasing his performance pay from $7,000 to $43,200 as a possible earning. So not only do I don't agree with our tax dollars being spent this way, I don't think that we need this complicated performance pay procedure. When ARS 15-341-39 gives us an easy framework to use, where half of the superintendent performance pay will be determined by parental and teacher satisfaction with the school district. But I don't see that anywhere on these pay for performance goals. So I only see one pay for performance goal that's solely for Dr. Menzel, and it's the one Dr. Hartwell's was talking about in increasing the number of students earning C or better in Algebra 1 by the end of 9th grade. And I agree with her that that would have been good to have on the cabinet one as well. And I'm disappointed that the one that I had brought to the table is not on Dr. Menzel's performance pay, as far as it's only on Dr. Benson's. Thank you.
And I'll note that all governing board members were provided the opportunity to provide input. And because this is a group of 5 individuals with different opinions and different perspectives and experience, that there were numbers in our last discussion that were put forward. And of course, the art of compromise, I think, is a magnificent way to move forward in moving that needle of our district success. Board Member Werner. Okay, never mind. Seeing that there's no additional request for comment, I'd like to make a motion to approve the superintendent's annual performance-based pay plan. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Seconded by Board Member Lindsay. All in favor to approve the superintendent's annual performance-based plan, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no.
No. No.
That motion passes 3-2. We're moving on to agenda item 9C, which is a second read and approval for governing board policy BEDB regarding the agenda. Counselor McClellan.
We need to make sure they turn it.
Microphone.
Can you tap on the mic's not on?
There we go.
There, it's on now.
Madam President, members of the governing board, the governing board is considering a second reading of governing board policy BEDB. There are 2 versions of this policy presented for your review based upon the first read of governing board policy BEDB. And I'm available to answer any questions regarding either of those.
Okay. And because I did put this initially forward, I would like to just make a comment that I'm going to reiterate that when I initially did put this forward, it was in response to commentary made. I do participate in governing board reports. I've always found them to be, I felt like it was something I was supposed to do. But, you know, as was brought up last meeting, there were some ideas for improvement, and I only received 2 messages on this particular topic since our last governing board meeting. One was from a parent and one was from a board member. And I was initially planning to retract my request, but instead I actually reconsidered the commentary made in our last board meeting. And out of respect for the interests of other board colleagues, my preferred option is option 2 now, where it's actually, instead of eliminating the governing board reports, to limit it to 2 minutes per report. Additional commentary at this time? Board Member Carney.
Thank you, President Snowski. Who will be timing us if this is the version that we go with?
Madam President, Ms. Carney, if you pursue this version, I would suggest that you have the same timer up that the public speakers do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Seeing that there are no, Dr. Hart-Wells, do you have anything to add?
No, I do not.
Okay. Seeing that there are no other requests, I'd like to make a motion to approve BEDB policy revision number 2. Please clarify me, Jennifer, if that's right. One with the time limits, okay? Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Seconded by Vice President Werner. All in favor of that, say aye.
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 That motion passes 5-0. We are going to move on to 9D, second read and approval, Governing Board Policy BEDD, Rules of Order. Dr. Hart-Wells and Ms. McLennan.
Madam President, members of the Governing Board, this policy is presented to the Governing Board for a second read. It would add a Section F to Governing Board Policy BEDD regarding rules of order, stating that in matters of procedure not covered by law or board policy, Robert's Rules of Order shall be used as a guide. That would be the addition.
Dr. Hart-Wells, would you like to weigh in on this because you initially brought this forward?
Yes, thank you, Board President Sanowski. It's a little clunky trying to get your attention from the cloud here.
You're doing well.
Ms. McLennan read the language. I think it speaks for itself, but 2 clarifications. 1, this is a guide. It shall be used as a guide, so it's a Plan C in the event that law or board policy is porous on a critical matter, which we have had happen this year. And then secondly, that this would also apply in executive session.
Dr. Hart-Wells, curious, can you reiterate on what you mean by that?
President Sanowski, clarify what aspect, please?
When you're talking about us using this in executive session.
As a protocol, so the board policies, the law, the board policy, and then as a structure for managing debate and or discussion. This would also apply in executive session as it does in the public domain. We have our public sections of the meeting, which presumably the board policy and the state laws apply in both forms. This would also apply in both forms. But I would appreciate, because we did not ask Dr. Menzel his thoughts in the first read, if he would weigh in on his thoughts on the operations. I think you have more experience with boards, governing boards in public education, and how this might roll out if you see this being burdensome, in your opinion.
Thank you, Dr. Hart-Wells. I actually, having reviewed this again during the course of my 22 years as a superintendent and 6 years before that serving on as the executive for a workforce development board, have relied on Robert's Rules as a guide for much of that time. My concern only would have been if we had rigid adherence to Robert's Rules. That would have been unduly burdensome, would have required training in a parliamentarian, and that would have been a concern. The way the language is proposed here, using it as a guide, is something that I've seen help ensure effective and efficient organization and structure of meetings, making sure that every voice is heard and that we have order in the process. And so as proposed here, I don't have any concerns.
Thank you, Dr. Menzel. I have no further comments. Board President Sanowski.
Thank you, Board Member Dr. Hart-Wells. I thought I heard an end. No.
I was going to make a motion to approve the item.
Board Member Carney has her microphone request on. Let's listen to her commentary first. Board Member Carney.
Okay, thank you. I didn't realize I had it on. So I'm a little concerned with switching to this right now. We're already underway in a new school year. We haven't even been able to get together to do a board retreat. So I'm just concerned at starting this right now. Is this going to be an issue? How are we going to learn together, what's expected of us? I agree Robert's Rules would be a good thing, but why wouldn't we go all in for Robert's rules and do this in the summer or another time when we have more time where we can actually get trained and be implemented and implement it when, we're not already in the beginning of school year. That's my only concern.
Appreciate your concerns, and I hear that. But it was clarified that this would be like a safety net of our protocol, a decorum, and procedure as a governing board. We would first abide by state statute, the laws, governing board policies, and then if there isn't anything in to guide us, then we would rely on Robert's Rules of Order. Is that correct, Dr. Hartwells?
As written, that is correct.
Thank you.
And may I respond? I appreciate the sentiment. The good news on this one is we're all starting from the same point. And secondly, there's lots of information out there for us all to learn from. So this is not an obscure practice. So widely available resources, and we're all starting from the same time point. And again, it's a kind of third tier support net. It wouldn't change in substance just when we hit snags, which unfortunately we've hit a few snags. This would be instructive. That's the intent.
Board Member Werner.
So I have two things. Dr. Hartwells, could you clarify the snags? Because I'm very confused as where we've had an issue before. So if you could clarify where this would come into place.
Happy to. Thank you, Board Member Warner. For example, the evening that we had a personnel list and out of the consent that was pulled, the vote, we had 4 board members present. We had a quorum. The vote was 2-2. It was unclear. The policy was interpreted one way. There was some different opinions on whether that construction of the existing policy was accurate. That's just one example. Further, there would be opportunities and there's more structure around addressing each other, which I do believe would be also helpful to keep the board's focus on healthy governance. So I hope that that's helpful.
Can you clarify addressing each other?
So, for example, this conversation right here would be directed to the chair or the board president, not each other, not as a personal interaction, but rather enabling and galvanizing the work of the board as a whole, as opposed to individuals.
Okay, thank you for that. So this is the second time that, and thank you for your input. I really appreciate it. This is the second time we've had something come up around voting and the way that we run the boards. And I've been on this board this is my 9th month, and it actually sounds like this would make it more cumbersome. And I think that the way that we have ran things, I think that President Sanowski does a fine job with the way that she runs the meetings. And I really think that this is just adding another layer of confusion and inefficiencies. And this is the only time that we as a board get to all speak together. This is the only time that we can discuss things due to open meeting law. So to add another layer of going through the board president, when I'm really asking for, just as an example of Dr. Hartwell's clarification on what she meant, I think that this would just add another layer that would be more cumbersome to the process and would also inhibit us from having a clear dialogue on the dais, which again is the only place that we can have a dialogue. So I'm not going to support this today. If we're going to go all in for Robert rules, that's one thing. But to add this other layer, I think is silly. And we just need to stick to what has been working. And that is my opinion. And so I won't support this policy change today. Thank you.
Board President Sanowski, may I speak, please?
Please, go ahead.
Thank you. So, for example, a disparaging comment like "this is silly" would not be permitted under Robert's rules. It doesn't aid in the healthy governance of the district, but rather, drives a tone that is unhealthy, in my view. And so, my suggestion and my proposal was to find solutions so that we can stay focused as a board and work for the district and for the kids and for the teachers, not for ourselves. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Hartwells. And I would like to just add, so in utilizing Robert's Rules of Order, when we're speaking on a subject or topic, that each governing board member would be allowed to have an initial time to discuss the topic before anyone has a second opportunity if that time so comes up. And I would really like for us to be able to come to some agreed upon rules of decorum and standards as a governing board, with the intent to really ensure that we are making decisions based off the best interests of our students. And our motto this year should be the motto every year of every governing board, and that is because kids. So when our teachers are speaking to students, we expect them to speak to students a certain way. And I would like for us to at least practice that as a governing board and not make comments, whether in front of the public or behind closed doors, that, are disrespectful to one another. And so I'm hoping, I appreciate this as an additional safety net and maybe more of a better guide to how we function. I think we could all put in place better decorum ourselves as governing board members and ensuring we have better business practices. I see your mic is on, requesting to speak again. Board Member Werner?
Thank you.
Would you like to speak?
Yes, thank you, President Snowski. So all our voices on this board are equal, and we all have our opinions, and it's also why we were elected. And my comment of using the word silly really is just my opinion and was no way meant to be disparaging in any way at all. And I actually agree with President Zanowski on we should come to an agreement on how we can run effective board meetings, but I don't think that the solution that is proposed to us today is that. And I think this would actually warrant a retreat where we can discuss best practices and come to an agreement where everyone feels that the board meetings are ran properly, and the most important thing is kept in front of us, which is our students and our staff and our parents. And so I would really like to actually table this today and set up a retreat where we can have a discussion about best practices for running a board meeting. Thank you.
Madam President,
Yes,
is
go ahead.
Ms. Warner making a motion to table?
I'm not sure.
Ms. Warner, are you making a motion to table?
I will make a motion to table the agenda item 9D in order for us to have a discussion outside of this meeting where we can come to an agreement on what would be best practices.
I second that motion.
The motion's been made and seconded to table this. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. No. That motion passes. Dr. Hartwells, did you weigh in on that? I didn't hear.
No.
Is your vote no?
My vote is no.
Okay, that motion passes 3-2. This item has been tabled. At this time, we are going to move on to item 10 of our agenda, and that is an opportunity for governing board members to propose topics for future consideration. Board Member Werner.
Yes, I have 3 items. One is I would like to have a discussion on an agenda item, the communicating responsibly in the event of emergencies through the proper channels. As in, yesterday we had an event at Cherokee, and it fell upon the security department to communicate out to the public. I think that is not effective, and we need to have just a standard procedure for communications. That's one. 2 is to review the IBM process to ensure that staff gets proper raises and money is spent in the appropriate places. And the third one is I would like to have my bathroom policy placed back on the agenda as it was supposed to be 2 meetings ago. Thank you.
Board Member Carney.
Thank you, President Snowski. Policy IHAMD. states annual reporting requirements that by June 30th of each year, the district shall provide the governing board a report detailing each of the district's social emotional learning programs, including but not limited to programs addressing suicide awareness and prevention, threat assessment information, and data and information regarding programs designed to educate about drug and alcohol abuse prevention, which includes data on student participation and outcomes. I don't believe we've received that report, and we need to follow that policy to get that report done, please. Also, we need an update on policy IHAMD. The same policy states for student identification cards that the district shall include at least one of the following on each new identification card issued to a student in grades 9 through 12. And I won't read all of what they are, but we currently have this information on 6 through 8 IDs, and we mistakenly put it on some of the elementary school IDs as well. So we need to get this in line with our practice and our policy. Thank you.
Anything else? Dr. Hartwells, do you have anything to add?
Yes, thank you, Board President Snonsky. I would like for the district to present a review and report out how on the different novel categories that are they're defined. We have a green, yellow, red rubric, how those categories are defined and executed. That would be helpful to have a little bit more structure and meat on the bones on how that process plays out, please. And further, a second item, I would like to request at a time that is convenient, but by the end of the calendar year, if possible, a presentation by the Self-Insurance Trust on the finances. And I know they go through an audit that's never had any issues, but also the expenditures, just a general presentation for the board and the public would be very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Hartwells. And I have one addition to these, that we take appropriate actions to establish an alternative school facility or structure for placement with varied lengths of service and types of services depending on our students' needs. I'm bringing this up because I feel we have students that have some issues with credit and on-track graduation. We have some students who don't always function well in a typical learning environment, and I really want us to continue to protect that learning environment so all children thrive. So if it means we have to bring back into our district, as we've had at one point in time, some alternative type of school facility or placement, I would appreciate learning more about that, and not just learning about it, but facilitation of such. Seeing that there are no other requests for future items, we have many upcoming dates to note, and they are as follows. Our next governing board meeting is Tuesday, October 3rd, 6 p.m., and that will be at Coronado High School. Tuesday, October 24th, we have a special governing board meeting at the MDA. We have an M&O override town hall Wednesday, September 20th at 6 p.m. at Arcadia High School Auditorium. Wednesday, October 25th at Chaparral High School Auditorium. Tuesday, November 7th at 6 o'clock at Coronado High School Auditorium. We have another town hall already published on February 22nd at Desert Mountain High School in the library there. And then Wednesday, March 20th, 2024, 6 p.m., Saguaro High School Innovation Center. Sharing that information, at this time I make a motion to adjourn this governing board meeting. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Vice President Werner. All in favor, say aye.
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 That motion passes 5-0. The time is 7:43 p.m. This meeting is adjourned.